help me make sense of this. Donald Trump says we need to stop Putin. We want the war to end. I mean, he says it over and over again. He wants to stop the war. I get that. I hope the war gets ended. I don't want to see loss of human life anymore, and I sure as hell don't want to see billions and billions of additional dollars flown into Ukraine. And you and I have talked many times about the virtual, if not genuine, impossibility of Ukraine prevailing over Russia, and Russia keeps making more and more inroads. That's established. So Trump told reporters last week, I'd like to see that war end. We're looking to do a deal with Ukraine where they're going to secure what we're giving them with their rare earth and other things, meaning the minerals. And they have a very large mineral supply in Ukraine, from what I understand. So they have something to bargain with. But that sounds like in return for us giving them more weaponry, they're at least going to pay for it with minerals. That doesn't sound like an end of the war. That sounds like an extension of it.
Well, it's really unspecific what the administration intends with the deal. A deal to do what? That's what's literally not been speculated either by Zelensky or by Trump team. Because on the one hand, it seems to me, and trying to read between the lines, that Trump is saying that we're going to help you guys achieve an end of the war. I won't say peace, but certainly an end of the war on terms that maybe you can like as long as I get something out of it. I don't see him even implying, Trump I'm talking about, that he would continue to support the war to get minerals, that there would be some kind of a military victory for him. So that's the way I think. And I think that that's the most plausible, even for Zelensky. If he can hang on to anything, I think the hope is that Trump will negotiate some kind of an end of war termination deal that is at least tolerable to the Kiev side. But Brian, I don't think that there's a deal like that to be had. So I think that everybody from Zelensky to Trump and everybody else who's trying to get this kind of a deal is going to be surprised at how it turns out if that is what they're thinking.
Well, I would imagine, we rebuilt Germany, and we've been trading partners with them since World War II, that after this war is concluded, however it gets concluded, and I think you and I agree that it's going to require some major concessions of land to the Russians, but that we would be a trading partner with what's left of Ukraine, and we'd be happy to buy their minerals.
Well, we certainly, and I think that's what he's trying to bank on. But the problem is, if the deal doesn't also include the Russian side of this, and if they're not also in agreement with how it turns out, that's where the big disappointments are going to come in. At the moment, the majority of where these theoretical minerals actually are, or potential, because they're some of them are literally buried miles under the ground. So it's not like they can just go to the bank and make a withdrawal of these minerals. It takes a lot of lead time. And I mean, it'd be multiple years before you could actually mine enough of this stuff, reprocess it, et cetera. And a majority of that's under areas already controlled by the Russians. And the way things are going there, even more that's going to be done. So if you want to make a deal because you want to get something for the United States afterwards or whatever, if you're Zelensky, you want to make a deal, you also have to be able to look at the other half of that equation. Will the Russians agree to that deal? Because right now they're in a position of power they can come closer to dictating terms than anybody in the West or in Kiev.
All right, fair enough. Not going to get over today. We know that. Daniel Davis. Pivoting over, Hamas is, I guess, through with the deal. They claim Israel violated the terms and conditions of the ceasefire. What has been troubling me is they freed 21 hostages, and they're not in very good shape, as we saw the other day. They have obviously been starved and mistreated. But the Israelis have given up 730 Palestinians. They were supposed to give several hundred more this weekend in return for 3 more of the hostages that Hamas is holding. And I think some are speculating, I believe Donald Trump himself, wondering whether many of those hostages are even still alive, given the poor condition of the ones they released.
Well, look, there's been a strange way for these hostages to come out. You may recall that when I think the first batch of 4 women hostages were released, they were actually in very good health. So it seems that there is the Palestinians or the Hamas rather, for whatever their own motives are, feed some and treat some well and some not. It seems like the men were not treated well and the women were. There's some reports that the Palestinians were saying, hey, you've been starving us, you've been keeping food for our people, so we're going to do the same thing to your hostages, something like that. But it's really hard for me to see how the Hamas side benefits from slowing this down and changing three for, as you said, they could get hundreds more in return. So I don't know what their play is here, but it's again, you talk about leverage and who's got it. They don't seem to have a lot of leverage and not much to gain that I'm seeing. So it's a bit of a head scratcher for me.
I, I, I guess they're really inviting Israel to launch military action again. I mean, that's I
Well,
mean,
and there's already a lot of talk about that. That's what's coming anyway. And Trump has not been very shy about talking about, that he's going to help Israel. And there was a huge, I think, like nearly $7 billion new aid package talking about going out the door. So it wouldn't seem that Hamas would have some motivation to help that along to their demise. So maybe there's something else going on here I can't see because what we can see just doesn't really make a lot of sense.
well, and something else doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Trump's talking about owning Gaza, and he speaks about it in pretty stark terms. But what I wanted to pivot over to, it is a nightmarish landscape in Gaza. All the images we get out of it, it just seems uninhabitable.
It does, and I think that that's one thing that the West needs to get a deeper understanding of, and especially Trump and his negotiating team, that to the Palestinian people, even that landscape, that hellish landscape that Trump accurately describes, is their identity. And Trump was saying, "Look, I mean, I see this stuff. How would anybody want to live there? We want to give them a nice place somewhere else in Jordan, Egypt, elsewhere to go to. But it's not about where the kind of living you want to have. It's about where their ancestral homeland is. So." If people think that they will willingly go somewhere for a better land, I think they're going to be disappointed because they don't want to go anywhere else. They just want their land. And right now, they're apparently willing to die for it. So we need to be sure we understand how serious they are about not wanting to leave.
Well, and I think the Egyptians and Jordanians are full on record saying they don't want the Palestinians even for a short period of time.
Yeah, they're not, and because people don't understand also that, and I was looking at some reports literally just a few minutes before we came on air that Jordan has taken in somewhere close to 3 million Palestinians over the years already, and another nearly 1 million Syrian refugees from that civil war, and so they are bursting at the seams. They simply can't take anymore, certainly not in any large numbers. So if Trump's thinking he's going to pressure them, which I think he said to Brett Baer on that Super Bowl
Yeah.
interview. I don't think that they're going to be able to. And apparently, King of Jordan, is going to talk to Trump. I think as early as tomorrow.
Yeah, I do believe he's in town and for a meeting here in Washington D.C. If I read that correctly, Abdullah.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right, and finally, looks like Tulsi Gabbard's going to get it. Going to get the approval, and I know you feel pretty good about that one.
I do. Yeah, she's heading to. I think the Senate had what they call cloture yesterday, that basically paved the final way. The final vote will be, I think, like just a couple of hours from now, and by all estimations, she's going to pass through that and then be sworn in as the Director of National Intelligence tomorrow.
Well, that'll put a smile on your face based on all the comments you made on the
It
morning
will,
show
and
here.
it should, and it should put a smile on everybody's face in America because, as I say, I think that's the best pick that Trump made of any of his senior advisor positions in the government because of her capabilities to do the job. I think it's going to be a big win for Trump and the U.S.
Every Tuesday here on the 55 KRC Morning Show, the Daniel Davis Deep Dive with retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis. You can find the podcast at 55KRC.com. Until next week, my friend, have a wonderful week.
Look
God
forward to
bless
it.
you. God bless you, sir.